All right. It finally happened.
Ruled in favor of same-sex marriage across the United States. It could now be overturned. Senior Washington correspondent Devin Dwyer is on the story for us. All right, give us the deal, Devin. Who is actually asking the justices to overturn this?
Well, in recent years, Kira, we've been waiting for a case like this as some of the sentiment in the country has started to shift a little bit, softened rather, against same-sex marriage. There's been a lot of talk about whether the justices would get a chance to reconsider the case. And as you said there, they are getting that opportunity next month. We've learned that Kim Davis, she's that Kentucky clerk from back in 2015 that was at the center of international controversy when she refused to issue marriage licenses to a gay couple in Kentucky in defiance of the Supreme Court. She spent 6 days in...
Maybe TERFs will learn the consequences of what they advocate for. Dog, TERFs have never existed. It's just been reactionaries. Lesbians, cisgender lesbians, are more pro-trans than trans people. TERFs wanted this. They're just conservatives. It was always a psyop.
Jail. She lost a defamation suit. She had to pay $100,000 in damages, $260,000 in legal fees. That's what she's appealing to the Supreme Court. But it's the first time, Kira, that anyone has technically asked the justices explicitly to overturn Obergefell v. Hodges, which was that landmark ruling. And she does.
Why are TERFs the first thing that come to your mind? Yeah, why do people always do, like, why is it that this, like, weird made-up sub-community of transphobes from the island of Britain, why is that the thing that comes up, right? Like, the people who hate gay marriage are just conservatives. Like, it's overwhelmingly, like, religious conservatives. You know, TERFs are, like, that's such a side bit, you know? They're on the bench. Are they going to unmarry people? No, they wouldn't be revoking existing marriage licenses. That would be insane. It would probably, like, the thing the Supreme Court would probably allow if they ruled against us would be for states to be able to make future homosexual marriages unlawful. Where are the gay Republicans now? They don't care.
Just that, her counsel in this petition, which was filed last week, says that decision was egregiously wrong. And if that sounds familiar, that's the same type of argument that was made by opponents of abortion when they sought to overturn Roe versus Wade just a few years ago. So a lot of eyes on this petition. It's unclear whether the court will take it up, but certainly a lot on the line.
Well, is there any indication that justices will consider hearing arguments?
Well, a lot of the legal experts I've talked to say there's no chance the Supreme Court will want to wade into this. But, you know, the climate that we're in right now, anything can happen. Certainly, we are in the midst of a campaign against same-sex marriages across the country. At least 9 states so far have either passed legislation seeking to end those rights or specifically asked the Supreme Court, send resolutions to the Supreme Court asking them to revisit. You saw the Southern Baptist Convention, the nation's largest Protestant Christian group, just last month. They voted to make overturning Obergefell a top priority. So there's a renewed effort by activists in this space to try to get the attention of the Supreme Court. And a lot of them, Kira, are pointing to comments by Justice Clarence Thomas, the senior conservative, who after the Dobbs decision, the one that overturned abortion rights in this country, he said in his opinion that he thinks it's time to take a look again at marriage rights. So anything can happen. It's on the table, but most legal experts think that the chances are less likely than not, Kira.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, they've decided to take on the case in the first place, which is insane. I sincerely doubt the conservatives on the court were interested in taking this case just for them to go, oh no, never mind, and then leave it as it is. Seems unlikely. Most legal experts are morons and can't read the room. True. Very true. Very, very true. Kim fucking Davis. This name should be consigned to the annals of history. Why do I have to hear it again? Wait, if my girlfriend is trans, does that mean our marriage will be straight? How the f should I know? I don't know what your gender is. I don't know what the f deal is. It depends. Does the state you're... I mean, theoretically, if you are a cisgender woman and you have a trans woman girlfriend and you're in a state that doesn't recognize trans people, you could have a straight marriage, right? I don't know. It's a mess. I can't believe they took this case. Of all the ways Obergefell could potentially be overturned, for it to be a fucking appeal from Kim Davis. Oh my god. Look at her forehead. Look at this ugly ass bitch, man. Honestly, it doesn't look like... Oh, wait, never mind. This is a photo from 2015. I was going to say, it doesn't look like she's aged a day since I remember from a decade ago. TLDR on Kim Davis. She refused to issue marriage licenses to gay couples and argued that it was her religious right. But she was actually basically like proto MAGA, because it was before Trump took office, and she was really good at cry bullying and crying in front of the cameras and just making a gigantic media circus out of doing something that was unambiguously illegal. She was a county clerk. It was her responsibility to issue marriage licenses according to the laws of her state. And she was arguing, well, what if I don't want to? And that was actually taken seriously by a lot of Christian conservatives at the time. It makes sense she would return, I suppose. She's so fucking typical of this era of conservatism. Is it sexist to call her a Karen? Dude, yes, but also she's like an arch Karen. Like genuinely. It's wild to consider that argument looking back. It's like a vegan getting a job at a fish cannery and complaining they can't handle dead fish. Yeah, well, Christians get away with a lot in this country due to religious exemption. You see the same stuff with, like, you know, they still complain about the bake a cake bigot stuff. But yeah, there have been a bunch of... Didn't Hobby Lobby do this as well? There's been a bunch of different like versions of this, with Christians saying like, well, being a good person is against my religious values. And then this gets taken seriously by the court system. While a strong majority of Americans favor equal marriage rights, support appears to have softened in recent years. 60% of Americans supported same-sex marriages in 2015, rising to 70% support in 2025, but that level has plateaued since 2020. Still, 70% is a pretty significant majority. I think religious freedom should not be a lefty value. I don't want any religion ever again. Well, what they're doing isn't religious freedom. Like Christian conservatives going to court and arguing that their religion gives them a special exemption isn't religious freedom. That's like a co-opted definition of religious freedom. In reality, what they're talking about is their ability to stochastically take away your rights because they're uncomfortable. But that's not actually religious freedom. The government should stay the fuck out of it, right? Like, at the end of the day, the religious freedom means they have a right to be a Christian, but if that interferes with their job, they can just get their ass fired. 30% is the same as Trump's voting base, right? Not necessarily. Among Republicans, support has dipped over the past decade, down from 55% in 2021 to 41% this year. Sheesh. 14 percentage point drop in just 4 years. The court is expected to formally consider Davis's petition this fall during a private conference. If the case is accepted, it would likely be scheduled for oral argument next spring and decided by the end of June 2026. The court could also decline the case, allowing a lower court ruling to stand and avoid entirely the request to revisit Obergefell. That still feels like it's more likely to me. Like with 70% support across the or like broadly across the country, the idea, I have more than 70% support for broads. Okay, we love them here. This feels like a very difficult line for them to take, but maybe not. They've disappointed me before. Ruling wouldn't invalidate existing marriages. Right. Yeah, we'll see. To be fair, when has the general public's feelings ever stopped them? It probably does pretty often, actually. Isn't this a nothing burger? Didn't Congress legalize gay marriage under Biden? Not exactly. The Respect for Marriage Act compelled all states to respect marriages that are officiated in other states. It basically means, like, Texas cannot say they don't officially recognize a marriage done in California. So what this does mean is that even if Obergefell is overturned and it's relegated back to the states, a gay couple could go to California to get married, and Texas would have to like grit their teeth and seethe about it. That being said, laws are pretty easy to overturn, so suppose we'll see. Yo, chat, is Vosh slightly left channel heavy? Nope, because my microphone is set to mono. It's entirely you. You're delusional. You're insane. You're going mad. Question, is there any actual point in governments being involved in marriage? I feel like life could go fine without legal marriages. There are a lot of problems with marriage as it exists now, but I guess I do understand the idea of a nation, or a state, I suppose, being interested in encouraging certain types of social unions, especially now that we're living in an era of global not having children, right? Like declining birth rates. I feel like it would probably be good to evaluate what kind of incentive structures we can produce that might encourage people to keep that sweet 2.1 per couple birth rate. I'm not sure. Are there good ideas to improve it? I don't know. That's kind of beyond the scope of this segment.